what's up, demons and demonettes? Tis I, a Trixie Demon Queen. And today, we're talking about the latest hero to join AFK Journey, and that is Hugin. But before we get into it, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. Also need to mention that we are on a Pioneer, so there might be some bugs, some translation issues, all those sorts of things. So this is not the final product, but we have a pretty good idea of what Hugin's going to be. So unless they change something drastic, I don't really see any changes coming here. Again, we'll be able to pull for him in a short amount of time. Right, so as always, let's take a look at his abilities. Unstoppable. Passive, Hugin sets his anvil on a tile where he is placed during the battle preparation. As his normal attacks and skills require the anvil, it will return near it throughout the battle and will always return it to if displaced. So if he gets a CC'd or whatever, he'll just, like, say Aaron, vacuums him, he'll get moved back. If Orson tosses somebody and he gets knocked back, he'll go back. So that's good to note. Active, Hugin, Gears of Might for the ally, dealing the highest cumulative damage, boosting their combat strength. The gear increases the ally's attack. It's based on Hugin's base attack and their haste. Unlike most other support heroes where they just do like a base, right? So like, and this is only up to 10%. So say like a Mikola, she'll do like a 20%, and that'll just be like their 20% to that hero. So it's based off the hero's attack, not their own attack. And we can compare him to the likes of Mikola, to the likes of Smokey, to the likes of Coco, Shakir, and Lucius, right? Because he does have some shielding abilities, which we'll cover here in a second. Alright, Hugin crafts a cog shield for the weakest ally, allowing them to block some damage. Mechanized bond. And when the battle starts, Hugin enters a mechanical sigil behind him. So this is always stays behind him, and whoever stands in that area behind him gets an attack bonus equal to 14 plus 2% of Hugin's attack. So that's your skill. And the ally recovers 75 energy whenever Hugin casts a Titan Aegis, right? His ult. Hero focus, it just adds haste. Steelbound kinship, this is EX. A weapon, Hugin crafts an enhanced cog shield for the two weakest allies when casting Unstoppable. Again, his ult. Grinning, each with a shield that blocks a bunch of damage. And then you level it up, it gives more block damage, and then gives control immunity when the cog shield is active. So they get an 8-second immune. And then when cog shield is enhanced or active or whatever, the protected ally takes 30% less damage. So what does he do? He buffs and he shields. Now, when I talk about his buffing and shielding ability, I mention Mikola and Smokey particularly, Coco as well, and Shakir is the same. So those heroes either buff everybody in a range, or they buff the entire party. So like a Coco, she buffs the entire party when she gets her shields, because her shields hit everybody, and then she buffs everybody. So your other buffers, it's worth noting, buff the entire party. He's only at max going to buff 2. Now it is worth mentioning that Mikola's uptime in Dream Realm is near 100%, because she gets the Honor Arena. You control the Honor Arena pretty much the entire fight. You're always going to outnumber the boss. Even if you have Heroic eating everybody, you're still going to get that, right? And then her buff persists death. So Mikola's, far better than Hugin. Smokey, again, he buffs everybody in a range, and in Dream Realm, or most fights, we can usually get everybody in range, and again, he has 100% uptime. Now, we look at, so say if we were talking about buffs, right? And then we go back to Smokey's and we go to his buff. His is attacking the aroma by a 20% plus a 1 skill, right? So you're losing, it's increased the attack of allies. So it's their percentage. It's, oof, it's bad. He had max buffs to heroes, right? So he's not really performing, he didn't perform really well in a Dream Realm. We didn't even bother testing him here. On Alone Gaze, I don't even know if there are any records with him in Alone Gaze. Alright, but we did test him on a Crystal Beetle. So as you can see, this was one of our better runs at 90. But again, when we substituted him in for the various buffers, trying to buff Ludovic at max, we were getting a 62. I know some people saw higher. I did mess up on my heroes, so, you know, like my Ludovic's only a 10. So it's not the best for testing, I will say, but when I've seen people run the same kind of comparables, the original squad this squad always does more than the version with Hugin over Shakir, right? Because, again, Hugin's just buffing a Ludovic and a Ludovic alone. So if we look at here, we can see his cog shield in action. Alright, so there's the cog. So he's always buffing a Ludovic, and you can see his shield goes out. So you can see the little cog under the hero there. But because his attack bonus, he's not buffing everybody, right? So like Shakir in this case buffs everybody. So Shakir's attack buff goes out to everybody, and it just results in a net higher damage overall. So we're not gonna even finish running that. What I want to check is the formations. As you can see, even the people that are higher than me that are posting aren't running. Hugin, he's not very good here. So let's talk about arena, and we'll talk about PvP, because I did do some PvP. Now, you may seen him teamed up with the likes of Dunn. Do we have him here? No, because I stopped testing him there. Let's see, we gotta find a test. No. 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 I may not even have a test with him. No. No, that's me defending. I don't even have a test with them. My records got erased. So, basically, one of the things I noticed... Oh, maybe it's here. Okay, so here we have a man with Harak. The problem is Harak moves out of the buff, right? So he's only getting buffed a short while, and then your Hugin is going to get shredded. We see a ton of Celestial Hypogeans at the higher end. So there I fought them again. There, again, we fought another Dio. This time we paired him with a Dio, but it didn't work out too well. Again, the problem being that a Dio is just going to shred Hugin, and we'll watch that and see that in play. So are people saying he's really, really good? Yeah, maybe he's good at buffing Dio, but everything gets... the rest of your team gets destroyed. It's not necessarily what's good for that person, it's what's good for the Gander, right? So we gotta consider everybody else. And Hugin just doesn't cut mustard in arena, especially we're gonna see at the higher end, where you're gonna see your more Hypogean Celestial teams. He's just gonna get wrecked, he's just gonna get destroyed, and he's just not gonna really be able to do much. Most of the heroes that in an arena are going to just move out of his cog anyway. Like Dianel doesn't stay behind him to stay buffed the entire fight. Harak doesn't stay. The only heroes that sit behind him essentially the whole time would be an Odie, a Ludovic, or a Cecilia. And come on, let's face it, you're not going to be running a Cecilia anytime soon in a high-end arena. You're not going to be running... Well, you might run Odie, but that would be about it. At least in arena, not very, very good. Didn't bother to test them out in a Supreme Arena because of that. So he's not really good. He's not good for stages. Again, when we're doing stages, we don't have many heroes that are sitting behind. So this here is control, right? And this is all comp. So if we're pulling out, say, Temesia for Hugin, or we're losing a control element for the team, right? So even if we do that, it's going to be rough. Because now we've lost a control element, and that's the biggest thing. And pushing at least talent stages is... I mean, it's only going to be worse on our regular stages, because we don't have that extra element. So you can see we lost that control element. So then Lumon runs wild. You can see Lumon charges him out, he goes back, but then he just gets destroyed. So it's not very good. So he's not very good in push, he's not good in Dream Realm. At least in the current, you know, I don't see him being a good in pre-endless, because again, we're gonna go back to running probably Makola, Coco, Rainer, right? For the majority of our teams. Unless, or Sonya. So unless we get another, you know, hero that just kind of like sits back and shreds a boss. I mean, we don't even run Odie that much in a pre-endless these days, and he's the only one he'd really work with. But in the most part, when we are running Odie, we're tying him to a Rainer, and or Rainer shielding Odie and then putting over Odie to the boss. So even then, Odie's not sitting in the cog, so he's not really working there. So he just doesn't work overall. He's not very good. Now, I will point out that if we do go to a Ravaged Realm, and we look at one of the top formations here, the top formations in a Ravaged Realm are using Hugin. So this is the one area where he is okay. And it's only okay, right? So I can go to my own comparables because I do have comparables. So here we go. We got a 106 with our squad. And then with the Fae version, we capped out the last run at 104. Alright, so we're only seeing about a 2 billion increase from Hugin. And realistically, when we're using Hugin in this fight, so I'll show it. He's really just there to get eaten by Harak and put out one buff. So he will get out one buff in this fight. So this is the one area where he's okay-ish. Now again, if you're not going for a top score in your area, you probably don't need to pull him. You can just run Fae and just use the Fae comp. But as you can see, we'll run it and we'll see what happens, and I'll show you. Right, so if you watch Hugin, you can see he gets off one ult. He gets off 2 ults. And then he gets eaten by Harak. Right, so essentially, he gets out an attack bonus. Faye doesn't give an attack bonus, so she's not... That's why she's getting slightly outperformed, but again, you don't have a lot of uptime on the attack bonus, so it's not really adding too much to your overall score. So we can just hit skip now that we've seen the Hugin part in action. As you can see, now we did get a little bit higher. So, you know, maybe it's like a 3 billion higher now. There's obviously RNG. So it's going to be a slight increase. Now, when I say that, I think we can get away with pulling him only for the first copy. So, just to Epic. So we'll have a chance to test him out once Aurora Squad hits and a Ravaged Realm hits on the main account with the lesser copies, right? Because, again, we're only taking him for his ult here, right? So we may need to get to Mythic just so that he has a +5 and he has the increased attack, so he does give more of a bonus, and he's better a fodder for Harak. But again, if you're not really going for the number 1 score in a Ravaged Realm, when that comes around, he is an easy skip, because it's hard to say, hey, you should pull this hero so you can have the max score for one event that's up for like a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks in a season. And you can easily get the max rewards without running him. Yeah, so it's not looking good. This goes back to my issue with the game of releasing a quantity over quality heroes. He does not, outside of one game mode that's very limited, he adds nothing to the roster. I'm really disappointed in this hero. I didn't have high hopes for him. This has been just another disappointing hero in a season already full of different or much more disappointing heroes, and it's in a season where we got Hugin, who was, who's pretty much useless again. He's gonna pop up in a Ravaged Realm, so the gamble there will have paid off. But again, we're pulling heroes just for content that's only up for 3 weeks. Not very, very good. I mean, yeah, it's been bad. Hopefully we'll get Bonnie soon, and Bonnie will be much, much better, but my hopes aren't very high there. But I'm gonna be optimistic, and we'll see how that one goes. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!